Okay, so welcome back to the next video. So the first thing that you want to do now that you got everything set up is just select this window here where it says camera, go to view, and then 3D textured polygons. So just set this window here. You need to click on it because if you click on a different one, it's going to set that window instead, and you're going to screw stuff up. So make sure you click on this window, view, and 3D textured polygons. Okay. So what that's going to do is when you create something, okay, it's going to let you view the texture in this window here, okay, because by default it's going to look like this, and that's not really that useful. Okay, so once you've done that, you'll notice some buttons down here. Now I prefer to just go straight into things when I'm learning something. Some people, they like to read what everything does, they want to know what all these different tools do. Me, I just want to know what I have to know at the specific time, okay? And that's how I'm gonna explain stuff. If you want to research what all these different tools do, then I'll put a link in the topic so you can do that, okay? But for now, I'm going to start with this tool here. Okay, this is called the brush tool, and this is the most important tool that you're going to use. Okay, so you can, if you select this, then you can make a brush in this window, this one, and this one, and you can preview it here. Okay, so let's just make a brush. Okay, so you just select the size you want, you can adjust it, and here you can make it taller, you know, because you got every different side here. You've got the top and then the front, a different side. Okay, so once you're happy with the size, you can change it later, but let's just make a size and you press enter. Okay, so that's going to make the block. If you go into your camera here, okay, you can zoom out with your mouse scroll wheel. You can go backwards and forwards like this. And also with your arrow keys on your keyboard, you can change the view. Alright, so let's go in close. So we've got a nice texture here. Alright, what I want to do is just quickly change the texture. So it's actually been a while since I've used this program, to be honest with you. I've forgotten where it is. Okay, so we're going to go to tools and texture application, or you can press Shift A as a hotkey. So here we go. We want to set it to a different texture, just something which is solid. Okay, so set it as this and click apply. Okay, so now we have the basic surrounding, like, corners cube for our map. Okay, the next thing we want to do is make this entire thing hollow, and you can do that by clicking tools. Well, you need to make sure you've got it selected first. If you've unselected it by accident, then you can click the selection tool here, the arrow, select the window here, and then press enter, and that will select everything in that box. Okay, alternatively, you can press control and then directly click either here or on the side. Okay, and that will select the thing that you're clicking. Right, so back to making it hollow, you need to make it selected, press tools, and then make hollow, or Control H. Okay, this sets how thick it is. I normally make walls about 8 or 16, so I'm going to set this to 8. And now you see these extra lines here. Okay, that's actually because if we zoom in really closer, you can see that it's what's happened is it's cut that one big cube into several smaller rectangles, making up a bigger cube. Okay, and we can go inside here and we can see that this thing's hollow. Right, so this is a basic surrounding of our map. Okay, the next thing we want to do is add a spawn point. Okay, so we use the entity tool here, we click it, click on the map where we want it, doesn't really matter where, you can put it anywhere. Okay, and then you press enter and you spawn it in. Right, so we can click on it, make sure it's selected, and then we want to go to the entity properties, if I can remember where they are. Okay, so properties, we want to change this to a spawn point. One of these is CT and one of these is T. So info player start, I think, is CT. So okay, you see this changes now. The size of this is roughly the size of a player in game. Okay, so if you're making doors or ceilings or something, you want to base them off the player. Okay, you can see now that our area here is quite big. I would say it's about 1, 2, 3, 4, at least four times the height of our player. Okay, that's pretty ridiculous height to have. Okay, so what we want to do is just change the size, and there we go. Now it's a lot smaller. Maybe a bit too small, perhaps. So let's just increase it a little bit. Okay. Right. So we've got our basic map and our player spawn. That is. The next thing we want to do is, well, we should work on a gun room first. I think get the CT area sorted out. Okay. So this is going to be the most basic gun room you've ever seen. It's just going to consist of a spawn and a door. Right, so you want to select the brush tool again, and we want to select somewhere on the map and just draw a line like this. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're creating a wall. Just make the size a bit better. Okay, and where is it? I can't even see it on this grid. Need to bring it down a little bit. Okay, so let's just make this. Okay, so now our wall is in place. We have the world's most boring gun room. One spawn and a wall. So now our guy needs a way to get out, obviously. The way to do that is we make another brush. So we select the brush tool again. We draw in roughly the same place. Okay. So as you can see, that's making that here. We need to extend it a little bit and just make it roughly door sized, pretty much. Okay, so we need to make sure it's not going through the floor, because if it is, it's going to cause issues. I think we need to increase the grid size really, so I've forgotten how to do that. Okay, I have found the button to increase and lower the grid. Here we can lower it, and here we can increase it. So personally I like to keep it on the lowest setting, because it means that we can make things smaller. Obviously if it's bigger, then you saw before we weren't able to resize this. Okay, I want to make it a bit smaller. I want to bring it up from the floor, because if it's touching the floor and it clips into the floor, it's gonna cut a hole in the floor and a hole in the map, basically. Because what we're gonna do here, the purpose of making this wall here on top of this, is because we're gonna use a tool called clip or cut, I think it's called, that is gonna basically cut a hole the size of this brush out of the wall that it's inside of. Okay, so we want to make sure that this is the correct size. It needs to be about the right size for a door. Okay, we need to make it the same thickness at least of the wall, otherwise it's not going to cut through the entire thing. Okay, I've resized the wall by accident, excuse me. I'm just gonna make sure that I select the correct thing. Okay, if you want to select by using the camera tool and there's something inside of something, you can just hold the left mouse button down and it will cycle through all the available things that you're clicking on. Okay, so I've got the door here. I'm going to decrease the height, make it about the right height for a door. Okay, as you can see, it's just a bit bigger than our player, so it should be a good size. If you want to preview it as well, you can preview it in game. The first thing you can tell by looking at it here is obviously it's way too wide, so let's make the size a bit less wide. Okay, so like I said before, we need to make sure that this is not cutting the ground, so bring it above these lines like this. Okay, and you can look in the camera as well just to make sure that it's not cutting anything. And finally, to make a hole in the wall, we want to go to Tools and Carve. That's what it's called, carve, not cut. Okay, once we've done that, if we move the door out of the way temporarily, let's move it just somewhere out of the way, you can see we've now cut a hole the size of that object from this wall. Right, so I'm going to move the door back. Make sure it's in position. Right, so now we need to turn this from a door into a entity, and the specific type of entity we want it to be is a func door, FUNC underscore door. So we go to press Ctrl T to tie that to an entity. The class, we want to change it to FUNC door. Okay, so the yaw, if I remember correctly, it sets the direction the door goes in when it opens. There's also various other things you can do, like speed, if it kills the target, if it's locked, the sound it makes. There's loads of different things, but you can read into that later. This is just simple tutorial to make your very first jailbreak map. Okay, so once we've done that, that should select that as an entity. You can see now the sides of it have turned pink, and most func objects will be pink. Right, so now if we compiled this and went in game, we'd walk to this door and this door would open upwards, hopefully, like in this direction. Right, so now we've got our very basic gun room with our spawn point. Next thing we want to do is make the cells. Okay, so we're running out of space a little bit here, so I want to extend the walls of this area, right? So just drag it along, boom, simple. Now we want to make the cell area, okay? So I'm going to make really simple cells. Again, we want to get the brush. Let's just create a wall. Hello. If you've got something selected, that you want to cancel, by the way, you can press escape and it will deselect, so you can continue again with a new thing. Okay, so when you're making brushes, you want to make sure they line up with the rest of the stuff, really, otherwise you're gonna have gaps and stuff in your map. I've kind of screwed up. I should have changed the grid size from the very start. Now some of my brushes are not the correct size. So yeah, you might want to make sure you got a consistent grid size the entire time. Alright, so let's just make sure it touches the ceiling. You're gonna have to overlap it because, like I said, the grid size is a bit screwed. Okay, and just make sure it's touching everything. Okay, so the ceiling, and drag it down to the floor. Alright, so we want to make this an appropriate size for a wall as well. It's a bit thick, so just drag it in. I think that's about a decent thickness. So once you're happy with what you've got, again press enter, and there you go. Now you can see I'm using the same textures, and it's already a bit confusing. What the fuck is going on my keyboard? Okay, well, anyway, it's already a bit confusing because you can't even really tell this is a door in the editor. Let me just try and fix my keyboard because... okay. So now we've got all these different brushes lining up. They've all got the same textures. It's a bit confusing. So if you want to change the texture any point during the thing, you can go to tools and texture application, or again Shift A. Right, so let's just select a different texture, anything else, so that we can tell the difference between a door and a wall. Okay, there you go. Now that's pretty obvious. And let's select a different texture for the new cell wall, just again so it stands out and it's pretty obvious that we've got something new here. Alright, you want to really take your time with the textures once you've completed the map, because you don't want to be pissing about trying to find a really nice texture when all you're doing is, well, I mean, when you've not even got a finished map, you know. I generally find it's a good idea to make all the brushes and the basic layout of the map before I will spend a lot of time getting the textures looking right. Okay, as you may have noticed, by the way, I selected this wall over here and I just copy pasted it with Control V and Control C and Control V, just to copy it over to this side as well, and then I lined it up to make sure that it's in line with the other one. Okay, so now we've got these two newly created areas here for cells. Okay, I've just realised I've actually gone a bit wrong, but I'll just continue and you'll see. Well, I'll explain once we get to how I could have done this better just now. Okay, so let's make this a top cell area here and a bottom cell area here. Let's just make another spawn point, copy our guy, and put him over here, just so we've got an idea of sort of space we're working with. So as you can see, plenty of room here to cut this to half and have a cell above. So let's select our brush tool again. We want to go roughly in the middle here, so actually let's just select the selection tool again and select the outside of the map of our big wall, sorry. Now you see this red square in the middle, okay? Each brush has a, sorry, not square, cross. Each brush has a cross in the center of it. Now we can use this to accurately divide our section in half, okay? So we want to make both cells roughly the same size. So let's select our brush tool, and we're aiming for this cross here. So just zoom in really close, create a small brush which goes over both the top and bottom, and then drag it out all the way. Okay, and then we want to move it over here, so it's over our cell area, making sure that it at least touches or overlaps the wall here. Okay, so now we can go in and have a look in the camera. Okay, so you see this white area here, this is the brush. Let's just press enter, so we've got that done now. So this is our new floor, dividing the two areas. Okay, we also want to separate out these cells as well. So we want to make sure there's enough room in each cell. So let's copy this guy again, move him over here, so we can get an idea of roughly the size, or roughly the area that one player is going to have per cell, okay? I personally find it really hard to actually sort out the aspects of a map. That's probably one of my biggest problems. They're either way too big or way too small, and we'll probably see that once we go in game, that this map is just ridiculously too big, most likely. So I don't like making my walls that thick because I don't know, I think it's a waste of resources really. I normally just put them, you know, about this size. Okay, so we want to extend this wall all the way up to the ceiling, so it goes to both excuse me, both the top and bottom cell. Once we're happy, just boom, put it in. Okay, now we want to copy and paste this again. We want to keep roughly the same size throughout all of our cells, okay? So you could be exact and you can count the number of squares, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's 23 there. So move that up to 23 as well. Okay, so that's roughly the same size cell now. Okay, so you want to just keep doing this until you get to a position where you've filled up all the areas. You know, just keep continuing to count the same number of squares so it's even. I'm not going to do that right now because, you know, I'm just doing this as an example really. Okay, so we've about roughly divided up the cells here. So now the next thing we want to do is we want to bring out this floor here a little bit so that we can create a area for the T's when they come out. Okay, so just drag it out a little bit, and now you can see when they come out, not going to fall straight to the floor. They've got a place to walk. Now the next thing we want to do is we need to create a way for these guys to get out of their cells. So I'll show you how to make the door areas. It's pretty much the same way we've done it with the last door. We want to select the brush tool, make an appropriately sized door using the player as a reference. And then we want to drag this door into the wall. Okay, well normally what I do is I like to extend it a little bit so I know that it's going through the whole wall. Okay, and just make sure it's touching the floor but not going through the floor. We don't want to make a hole in the ground. So let's make this. Excuse me. Okay, so if we select this, right, we can see that it's not actually this one here is a red thing. This is, I'm sorry, this is our door and this is our floor, and it's not quite touching. So we want to extend it, and unfortunately, it's not going to go directly on it. It's going to clip through it. So I need to sort this out. Okay, so if you're in the same situation as me, what you need to do is ungroup, select your walls, your cube outside basically, ungroup, and that's gonna, when you hollow out an object or carve an object, all the the brush which was before that becomes grouped, and any new brushes that are created become grouped with one big group. Okay, so we need to ungroup that and then just select just the ground. Okay, because we want to adjust the size of the ground and make sure the ground and door can meet properly. Okay, so let's bring the ground up a little bit, hopefully so it's now touching the door. Okay, as you can see, both these lines here are now meeting each other, not going through each other. There's no gap, it's directly on top. That means we can carve out our door. Now, again, if I move this out of the way, we'll see it's created a nice area now. So let's put this back. Right, so I'm going to copy and paste this now and move it roughly in the same place. Again, making sure that it touches the floor perfectly. So we just complete this process for each cell. This one's a little bit too... So this sort of happens when you don't get the proportions exact. can be a little tiny door. Right, so now we've got all our areas, all our doors sorted out, at least on the lower part. I'm just going to do this on the lower part, but just to show you how it's done. We want to make this a cell door now, so I'm going to show you how to do that. First thing we need to do is make sure this door is nice and snug inside the wall. Okay, so that's all lined up. Compare it on all the grids to make sure it's touching properly. Now we want to do Control T again, that makes it an entity, type func door, and I want my cells to open to the right, so actually I'm going to make them open down, so I'm going to put the yaw down here. Now we want to set the name as something because we're going to create a button, and the button needs to know what the name of the function of the door is when it's supposed to open when you press it. Okay, so we're going to call these cells. Okay, that's a decent enough name. Now I want to change the texture again, so we go back to tools and texture application. I'm going to see if I can find anything quickly that resembles a door. I think you can, yeah, if you click browse you can search as well. So here we go, bars. These are good texture for for cells, because this the blue area here is going to become transparent, so you'll be left with bars like you normally have in cells. Right, so now we've got one door completed. The easiest thing is just copy this door, put it for every door that you want for your cells. Right, so we're just gonna quickly place all these doors down. Again, making sure it fits properly everywhere. So I'm just going to leave that there for now, because again, the purpose is just to show people how it's done and not to create a map myself. Next thing we want to do is make a button to open the cells. Okay, so firstly I'm going to make a brush which is going to act as just somewhere that the button can sit on. Okay, so this is just a podium basically. We're going to make this, we're going to put a different texture on it. Oops. So come on, just get any texture, boom, apply, done. Right, so this is where our button's going to sit. Now we need to create a new brush for the actual button. Just bang a square right on top. Okay, we're going to create that entity, sorry, brush, then we're going to select it, press Ctrl T, make an entity, and button target is actually what we want. We want to change the target to the name of our door, or you can actually set it as any entity name for it to activate as it cells. So I'm going to do that, and there we go. Here is our button. Doesn't look like a button, so I'm going to look for a button texture. right. So the texture's not really showing up properly. I'm going to show you now how to fix these textures, because I just want to do that. So you select it, you go back into apply texture and just click, easiest way is just click fit. You can also go left and right with these values and change it around. I find the easiest is just to fit it. So you want to make sure you do that on each side, because it only does one side at a time. You don't have to do it on every side, you can actually put different textures. You know, for instance, I can put something else on the top if I don't want I think, at least anyway, I could be right actually. Well, I could be wrong. I'm just gonna leave it like this for now. So now what we should have is our gun room with our CT spawn point, our door which should open upwards when we go through, our cells, our cell doors, and the button to open the cells. Okay, now if you remember, these are actually CT spawns, so we need to make sure we change this into a terrorist spawn. The way to do that, go to properties, and we want to change it to info player deathmatch. That is a terrorist spawn. Do that for any that you have that you want to be terrorist spawns, of course. What's this? That's not a terrorist spawn. Okay, so now we want to save the map. You can save it any way you want, really, it doesn't really matter. And then you want to click run. Just leave these as they are for now and click OK. As you may or may not see, because I'm not sure if it will actually show my screen to you, but this is opened Half-Life and not CS. So I'm just going to close this and I'm going to go into CS. My slow PC decides to load. Okay, my map. That did not work. Please do not tell me it's not going to compile. There was a problem compiling the map. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so I managed to get it to compile. I looked at the log file that it was giving me, and it's saying that the WAD files cannot be found, which is weird. And it had taken the proper directory, like the G, off as well. So what I did was I just copied the WAD files from this place in my Steam folder, and I put them in my Hammer folder in a new folder called WAD, and then it compiles. Okay, so once I did that, I went in game and I realized I made a couple of mistakes. The first one is this entity here is supposed to be called func button, FUNC button, and not button target. So you want to set the name as anything you want. You want to set the target as cells, the name of the door or entity you want to trigger. Right. So you're wondering what the second thing I made a mistake on was, and that is the yaw. So the yaw does set the direction, but it's not as simple as this direction's up, this direction's to the right, this is down, spaces left. The truth is, I do not remember what they are, and I cannot be bothered to look them up right now. So I'll put them in the topic, or someone else can once I find out. So I'm just gonna compile this again and go in game, and hopefully this software is gonna capture the game as well, but I'm not sure. So anyway, so we go on running, open Counter-Strike, and type in console map, the name of your map, and there we go. So mine's super laggy. I'm not sure if that's because I'm recording or what, but we go to the button, click open, and it should please. Okay, you can see it's moving slightly. Okay, the reason why it's not going up or down is because of the yaw. Okay, I've not set I set these as random yaws. Once you get it correct, it will move you know, in the direction that you want it to. Okay, so this is simply put how you create a very basic jailbreak map with the gun room, a door, cells, and a button. Okay, pretty much everything that you want to make is going to be the same process as what I've described. You know, if you want to make a football field, you put a brush down for the green grass, you put a texture on it, then you create some brushes for the lines of the football field. You know, you make them white, you create excuse me, brushes for a goal. You know, if you want to make a surf, you create a triangular brush. You know, there's it's pretty much 90% of what you want to do is just brushes and textures. It's as simple as a map. There's another thing I want to show you though before I wrap up this this tutorial, and that is ladders, because ladders, they're not self-explanatory, and they're quite important. So first thing you want to do is make a brush, bring it to wherever it is that you want your ladder to go. And just roughly make it the size that you want. I think that's way too thick for a ladder, and I've selected the wrong screen. Okay, so once you're happy with the size of your ladder, just bring it in. Okay, so we want to texture the ladder, obviously. Shift T, is it? No, Shift A. Browse. There should be a ladder texture. Excuse me. So, you know, it's good to use this texture because as I mentioned before, these blue bits are going to go transparent, and it's going to look like a decent ladder. So the next thing we want to do now is we need to add an entity. So we want to copy the ladder, create take out copy, and just line up with the ladder. Okay, now we want to bring it slightly in front, just touching slightly, and then Shift T or Control T, sorry, To make an entity, and we want to call it bunk ladder, and there we go. So now if we compile this again, go in game and reload the map, we should hopefully have ourselves a working ladder. There we go. And that is how you make a ladder.